Hey there, welcome to SI Now. It is Thursday, December 8th, and I'm Maggie Gray. My first guest has won every football award possible. He was a college football national champion, a Heisman Trophy winner, a Super Bowl champion, and Super Bowl MVP, and not surprisingly, a member of both the college and the football Halls of Fame. Marcus Allen, Pro Football Hall of Fame. Marcus Allen is here. Thank you so much for being here.
It is a pleasure being here, Maggie. Thank
you brought with you some jewelry, which we're going to get to in just a moment. But tonight is really the Marcus Allen Bowl. This is the Raiders and the Chiefs on Thursday Night Football.
Well,
both of your former teams.
You're right. I'm looking forward to this game. And it is great that both teams are playing well at the same time. Obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs have been on such a winning streak well into last year. And now the Raiders, you know, they coming from mediocrity the last few years, and now they're playing great. And it's going to be, I really don't know how to call this one. It's going to be a great game.
I'm not going to even ask you for a prediction because I feel like there's so much more to get to, and especially with the Raiders. And this is such a turnaround for them. They're off to their best start since 2002. Yes. Are they a Super Bowl contender right now, Marcus, or do they need another year or two?
I think they can contend right now. I think the big challenge for them is defensively. They have to tighten things up. You can't count on their offense to score over 30 points every single game. But I like what I've seen so far. They're multidimensional on offense, and the quarterback is one of my favorite players. I think he has a tenacity about him. He has this winning spirit about him that galvanizes the team. And obviously Khalil Mack, I'm looking at the screen there, who's been an outstanding player and has a good chance to be the defensive player of the year, the way he's continued to play. So the other thing that I really like is that Jack Del Rio has really put them in position. I had this conversation with him because I went to the New Orleans Saints game, the first game of the year, and we talked about there's a lot of people that know how to play. Few people know how to win. His team is learning how to win now, and he's put his team in position to learn how to win. Going forward on the two-point conversion in New Orleans, going forward on fourth down in Tampa, your team responding. All of a sudden, they fall behind against the Bills, and they come back with a vengeance and put points on the board and stuff. So they're learning how to win.
I mean, because of the way that they've been winning, Derek Carr is getting serious consideration for MVP. Do you feel like he's earned that award this year?
Well, he should be in the conversation in the way he's played. And I think I looked at him his rookie season, and even though he didn't win a lot of games, I loved his composure. I loved the way he played. I loved the way he fought. And I thought he was going to be something special the way if he continued to progress, and he has. So I think Reggie McKenzie's done a great job. Obviously, Mark Davis hiring him and letting him do what he does best is evaluating talent, bringing in talent. And right now, they're stocked. There's a lot of players that have contributed. Again, the only Achilles heel at this point to me is their defense.
Yeah, although Khalil Mack getting chance of MVP in Oakland, although I'm not surprised about that. You know, on the flip side, you see a player like Ezekiel Elliott's also getting MVP consideration. Former running back yourself, you're watching Ezekiel Elliott. Is he the best running back in the NFL right now as a rookie?
Well, I liked him coming out of college, and I thought he was going to be great. And I always thought that he had the ability to hit the home run. He can take it the distance on any play. And he would be the first to tell you that he has probably the preeminent, offensive line in football, which helps out a lot. So I'm not surprised by the success he's having, and it's really helped this offense. And when you have a young quarterback that's playing there, and you have a strong running game, it clearly helps out that team and gives it the balance that it needs.
Yeah, absolutely. They're fun to watch, and on a winning streak, could be Super Bowl contenders themselves. We just want to go back to the Raiders for a moment, just because I mean, it's great now, but there were a couple years there where it was a little bit lean.
It was very lean.
I don't have to tell you about that. So you see, for example, Eric Dickerson, right? The LA Rams are struggling. He and Jeff Fisher kind of get into a back and forth, but in some ways, can you empathize a little bit, because it's hard as a former player to watch your team that you were drafted by, that you had so much success with, won a Super Bowl with. Is it hard to watch them struggle?
It certainly was, and I've always said this, the Raiders make the league better if they're part of the playoff picture. Because they have such a huge following. They're such a prominent part of the landscape of the National Football League, and when they play well, the league is to me, prospers. And so it's good to see them. But of course, anytime you see your former team struggle and they go through years of mediocrity, it certainly does help. And in Eric's case, he had the microphone, and I guess he criticized the team and they didn't like it. But knowing Eric, he's one of my best friends. I got to tell you what, if Eric says he is not going to a game, he is not going to a game. He says what he means, and he means what he says. So.
Is that a shame, though, that there could be this rift between the franchise's greatest player?
You hate to see that, of course. I'd like to think he's one of their greatest representatives, and because you're critical of a team, I frankly find it sort of weird that it's been mentioned that the players are uncomfortable, that the coaches are uncomfortable. Like, you guys should be concentrating on the field and not who's on the sideline. So it's kind of a weird situation.
It really was. I mentioned that the beautiful jewelry you have here, well, it's not just stunning, but it's also for a good cause. You're having people out there, everyone out there,
yes.
If you sing the K Jewelers theme song, well, then money is going to get donated to St. Jude's. Marcus, it's a campaign that's called #SingForSt. Jude donation, $100 for every time you sing the jingle. I'm going to let you sing the jingle, but why did you want to get involved in this great?
Up to $50,000 will be donated to St. Jude's. It's a great campaign because when you look at the organization, St. Jude is, in my opinion, one of the best, and because of what they do for kids and their families. K Jewelers have raised a ton of money. They've been a part of them for 18 years, so it's just been great. So. We want people to sing. They've been sending in these videos and it's been absolutely great. So are we going to try it right now? Jingle, of course we are.
But
this jingle is fantastic. I mean, once it gets in your head, you can't stop it. So you ready to go?
Okay, I'd like to say this is a bucket list item for me to sing with Marcus Allen. I'm an awful singer, so.
Listen here, it doesn't matter. Let me tell you what. I actually believe you can sing,
no,
but it doesn't matter. It's the thought that counts.
It's the thought that counts.
For a worthy cause, guys.
It's for a good cause, so we'll do the K Jewelers theme song.
You want to count me down? What do you want to do?
3, 2, 1.
Every kiss begins with K. That
you
was
are
great.
Phenomenal. That
no,
was
you
so
are.
Great. Thank you, Marcus
Maggie,
Allen.
that was outstanding. You don't give yourself enough credit, okay?
Thank you. #SingForSt. Jude
yes.
donation.
Yes.
That's where to go. Send it in. It's for a great cause. As I said, $53 million raised so far for children's cancer research, aid, funding, all of that stuff. Marcus, great to have you. Thank you. Happy holidays.
My pleasure. Great to be here. Same to you.
Thank you. All right, let's go next level on Week 14 of the NFL season. Here are some of the individual matchups that could determine who wins and who loses. Watch this. Baseball's hot stove season is starting to boil over, and our own Ben Reiter is here to talk about the biggest deals that we've seen in the past 24 hours. And let's start with the New York Yankees, shall we? They're bringing back Aroldis Chapman. The deal is 5 years, $86 million. He gets a no-trade clause for the first 3 years. Considering the Yankees have unlimited resources, Ben, is this still a good deal?
Man, it's good to be a closer these days, that's for sure. In the past 3 days, we've seen the record for closer contracts go from $50 million to $62 million for Mark Melancon to the Giants, and now to $86. Is it a good deal for the Yankees? First of all, they don't have unlimited money, especially the new luxury tax that they want to get under. Second of all, Yes, he's a unique talent, obviously, right? You go back to 2010, he's thrown over 400 pitches in excess of 102 miles an hour. The rest of baseball combined has thrown just over 100 of those pitches. He's one of a kind in that way. But you wonder how he fits with the Yankees' timeline, right? They're probably not going to contend this year as they wait for all their young stars to develop into what they're going to. And then you start working up against Father Time. Will that 100-plus mile-an-hour fastball last for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? I guess that's a Yankees gamble. It does seem a bit of a curious move for a team that probably isn't thinking it's going to win right away. I guess that's the strange part about it for me.
Yeah, they also have Betances. You also see the Boston Red Sox are basically have an arms race. They put together an all-star team. So we'll see about the Yankees. Another big deal, well, the Nationals, they lost out on Chris Sale, so they went for another Chicago White Sox player, and that's Adam Eaton. But did they give up too much for Eaton?
Well, it depends how you look at it, right? It's kind of strange that essentially most of the pieces that they were thinking about giving up for Chris Sale, they're getting Adam Eaton instead. Eaton's a very good player, underrated in a lot of ways, great defensively, a good on-base guy, but he's not a superstar. And this seems on its face to be a superstar package. If you look at the rating of the prospects they gave up, led by Lucas Giolito, who many people think is the number 3 prospect, the one thing you're hearing is that these were last year's rankings, Maggie, that perhaps the industry is not quite as enthusiastic about these names, which are still big names in prospect circles, but their real rankings might have dropped a little bit. They might have plummeted in the estimation of baseball experts. Look, it's a great deal for the White Sox, though. 5 years of Adam Eaton, you get to roll the dice with a number of top-rated prospects. It certainly makes sense from their perspective.
I wonder if the White Sox pull a little rope-a-dope on the Nationals there. We'll see.
I don't know.
Okay. Free agent Jose Bautista's potential suitors do not include former division rival, that would be the Baltimore Orioles. General manager Dan Duquette said the team was not courting Jose Bautista because the fans don't like him. When asked to elaborate, Duquette confirmed this, saying, "That's true. The agent called and I said, really? Jose's a villain in Baltimore, and I'm not going to tell our fans that we're courting Jose Bautista for the Orioles because they're not going to be happy." Now, Bautista has a history with the Orioles, but fans, Ben, have embraced former rivals in the past. Who is he really covering up for? Do they just not want Bautista in the clubhouse? Do they not want him at all?
This is a funny one, and you're right. Players can go from heel to hero in cities in the blink of an eye. If Jose Bautista became an Oriole, hit 2 home runs on opening day, I think all the past would be forgotten. I think it's probably a case where the Orioles weren't seriously considering signing him to begin with and couldn't resist needling a longtime rival, both the Blue Jays and Bautista. It's a pretty unusual story, though. A little trolling from Dan Duquette, not usually part of the hot stove season.
It's really interesting. I just wonder, because there is this history between the two teams, if that just means, they don't want to bring him in.
Yeah, I don't know. You don't see this. I know Jose Bautista does rub fans the wrong way around baseball. I think that they find him arrogant. They don't like his style. But yeah, it's strange. If they had any serious interest in him, I think that this would be a factor that was way down the list. But man, this hot stove season's about to get very interesting now, Maggie. Look at the closer market. Aroldis Chapman now off the market. You're going to have the Dodgers and the Marlins fighting for Kenley Jansen. This thing's just heating up in ways beyond the dissing of Jose Bautista.
I don't know. Marv Levy always said, right, when you start listening to the fans, you'll be sitting with them. I don't know if you should do that. Ben Reiter, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Maggie.
Ben, LeBron dropped 25 points at Madison Square Garden on Wednesday, and we know James and the team were motivated to embarrass the Knicks after Phil Jackson offended him with his posse comments. What message did LeBron send to Phil Jackson?
Well, I think it's a pretty simple one. We're the champs. You're still a pretty mediocre team that's getting excited about yourself, but maybe a little too excited too early this season. I thought the talent gap between those two teams in that game was just gigantic. Like you said, LeBron did have a certain extra swagger about him. After the dunk, he kind of walks into the Madison Square Garden stands to preen a little bit. Late in the game, they're playing with the water bottle on the bench as if to say, hey, sorry, New York Knicks, this is just a game of child's play here, taking you guys down with ease. So to me, I thought it was a pretty straightforward message. Don't come at the king. And in this case, he walked off victorious.
Was flipping the water bottles onto the court taking it a little too far?
Well, look, if the Warriors didn't exist, I would say yes, but the Warriors have really normalized this crazy childish behavior on the bench during games. I mean, Steph Curry was running around like a chicken with his head cut off the other night. He was running into the tunnel after Klay Thompson hit a three-pointer. Now these guys are doing the water bottle challenge. Pretty soon we're probably going to have mannequins on the bench. I mean, you know how this goes. It just kind of bleeds from social media, straight into the NBA environment and back. So I don't know if we need to have like maybe a memo from Adam Silver telling all 30 teams, hey, just kind of chill out a little bit. I did think they went just a little bit too far with that game. But again, the message was very clear is, we're bored high schoolers at our lunch hour when it comes to taking you down in the fourth quarter.
That's pretty bad. Wait, Ben, you mean mannequin challenge on the sidelines, not just actual mannequins. That's what I think you meant.
Oh, let's do both. Yeah, let's do both.
That would get a little creepy. Okay, so you mentioned the talent gap between these two teams. If Carmelo Anthony is looking at this game, he's saying, all right, my best friend, LeBron James, has found all this success. Our team, well, hasn't been very successful and has barely gotten to the postseason. Phil Jackson keeps bringing drama to the team. At some point, does he say, get me out of New York?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Carmelo Anthony, I'm kind of in countdown mode because he's reaching the stage of his career here where if he wants to have this winning legacy, which he's really tried to push hard in terms of like his gold medals as sort of being the defining character of his career, that's fine. But, if you really want to win on a big time stage, the Knicks is not the place to do it. I mean, this is ultimately going to be the Porzingis show in the not too distant future. And I think if you're Carmelo Anthony, it's time to go the Paul Pierce route here pretty soon and try to tag along with some younger teams, maybe teams that have cores that are in their primes where you can be a nice complementary scorer and really be a nice piece for a team that wants to make a deep postseason run. He might not be there quite yet, but to me, that clock is ticking. And I would love to see one of these scenarios that either LeBron's talked about and actually Chris Paul talked about in an interview this week where, they do get the whole banana boat team together, whether it's LeBron, D-Wade, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, all on the same team. I would love to see that. And I think the person who would benefit from that the most is Carmelo, because right now, his NBA legacy is going to be big-time scorer who never really made much noise in the playoffs.
Chris Paul's legacy could benefit as well, Ben. He even said last night after the Clippers were no match for the Warriors, he said, our spirit wasn't right. Now, is that quote a criticism of Paul's own team, or is that a comment on just how demoralizing the Warriors can make an opponent feel?
Let's take it past demoralizing. Let's call it humiliating. I mean, they really got turned inside out. Everything that the Clippers do and feel like they can rely on during a basketball game, the Warriors took away from them, and they took it away from them very early. You saw all the turnovers from Blake Griffin. You saw J.J. Redick not be able to hit a three for the first time in 77 games. Chris Paul really struggled. They just basically could not do anything on offense. They couldn't even get DeAndre Jordan really involved. And it just kind of devolved from there. You saw Chris Paul get a technical foul, Doc Rivers get a technical foul, Blake get a technical foul. The Warriors are just in their head, and I think that's what he's referring to when he says the spirit comment. I think that they realize that they really are at a psychological disadvantage in this rivalry. The Warriors have won 7 straight. They're now 8-1 when Steve Kerr has been the coach. It's a very, very one-sided rivalry, and the Clippers have, kind of hanging their heads last night for good reason.
They definitely have their number. And when the Warriors are going through a stretch like this, you hear talks about them possibly adding another piece, and it seems like overkill. Do you still feel like the Warriors need another big body?
Well, they're very reliant right now on Kevin Durant and Draymond Green for their interior defense, and it's worked splendidly. I mean, and it's come together, I think, that interior defense much more quickly than I expected. But those are 2 of your top 4 players, right? And you're asking them to do a lot of dirty work. So if I'm the Warriors, I'm still out there kind of fishing around, seeing if I can find another big man. But Zaza Pachulia is now playing better than he was earlier in the season. They found a little role for JaVale McGee there in spots off the bench. He's given them some time. So they're making it work. I don't think that they have any major holes. I think this team is ready for the finals right now, and they're just sort of biding their time for another 6 months until they get a chance to get another shot at Cleveland. But I do wonder, deep into a postseason, do they have enough up front still when it comes to the interior defense to hold up? I think that's still my biggest question, but it's not a very big question. I mean, these guys are absolutely loaded at all 5 positions like we saw last night.
Seems like an inevitability that they'll be back in the finals. It's not even Christmas yet. Ben Golliver, thanks a lot. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Maggie.
She is the most decorated female gymnast in American history. With 19 Olympic and World Championship medals, Simone Biles has now written a new book about her life. It's called Courage to Soar, A Body in Motion, A Life in Balance. And Simone Biles joins me now on the phone. Hey, Simone, it can take real courage to write truthfully about your own life, especially the tough times. Your childhood was not easy. Were there parts of your early life that you initially wanted to keep out of the book?
Not necessarily, because I think people think it was a little bit more difficult than it actually was. Everything happened at such a young age, so I don't quite remember too much of it. So it was an easy transfer.
It's great to hear. Yes, you were about 3 years old. Your birth mother suffered from addiction issues. You were eventually adopted by your maternal grandparents, who are now your mother and father, and you call them mom and dad. There's another part of the book when this is 2011. You were in Minnesota competing to make the women's U.S. national team. And of course, Marta Caroli, the godmother of USA Gymnastics, said she wanted to see you complete one of the hardest vaults in the world, Simone, a 2.5 twist. And you said you didn't feel safe trying it. Can you tell us what happened that day and the impact it had on you?
Yes, so that day, because I missed the spot at the end of the day, the results showed I missed the spot of making national team. My coach thought it was because I didn't do the 2.5, but I didn't do it because I didn't train it at home, and I didn't know really how to do it. So if I would have done it and just thrown it, a lot of bad things could have happened, but he wanted me to do it anyways for some reason. I have no idea. So I decided not to do it and to do the vault that I trained, which was extra, less than more. Okay, so instead of a 2.5, I did a double full.
And the impact of that, though, was that you missed making the national team by just one spot. What did that snub or that slight, what did that do in terms of the rest of your career? How did that set you up?
I think it made me want to train harder, but there's no saying that if I would have completed that vault, I would have made national team, because since I didn't know how to do the vault, I could have just been injured. So it's fine.
And you said that you've used that moment as motivation. There are some other interesting points in your book, and one is when you and your fellow gymnast Gabby Douglas were really rising to new heights, and there was backlash that, Simone, it appeared to be racial after an Italian gymnast said, quote, "Next time we should paint our skin black so we can win too," end quote. The Italian Gymnastics Federation released a statement that said this. Carlotta, the gymnast who said that, was referring to a trend in gymnastics which is going towards a technique that opens up new chances to athletes of color, well known for power, while penalizing the more artistic Eastern European style that allowed Russians and Romanians to dominate the sport for years. It's not surprising that you were offended by this. Is there still a stigma that powerful gymnastics is not also graceful?
Not necessarily. I think that any body type, if you look at over the past Olympians and who have won, we all have very different body types and structures and different ways of doing gymnastics. So I think we've all proven that you can be elegant, tall, and everything, or short and powerful. You both can be successful. It just depends on what year it is and how your competitors are. So it just depends.
What did you learn going through that particular situation?
It didn't really bother me. I just do gymnastics because I love to do it.
Okay. You know, it has been a few months since you captivated the world with your performance in Rio, Simone. Has the magnitude of what you accomplished, has it sunk in yet?
No, not yet, because I haven't got time to think about it or to relax. I've still been going for quite a bit now, so there's just been no time for it to sink in.
Of course, one of the great moments that was away from competition was watching you, us as fans, getting to watch you meet your favorite movie star, Zac Efron. Have you guys kept in touch?
No, I met my friends know him. I have 2 guy friends that know him, and so sometimes he'll text them, but other than that, no.
Okay, so we noticed that perhaps you may have a new favorite celebrity. We saw that you were at the Warriors-Clippers game on Wednesday night, and Steph Curry was all over your Snapchat. Have you had the chance to meet him, Simone?
No, I haven't had the chance to meet him, but his kids are absolutely adorable, and I want to babysit them.
I think he would take you up on that. Have you told him that you will babysit for free?
No.
Well, we'll try to get that message to him, and maybe you can have a chance with his little kids who are just so adorable. You know, you have already stated that you plan on competing in Tokyo in 2020. So with regards to gymnastics, do you feel like you have anything left to prove to yourself?
I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I think that's for me to figure out on my own rather than talk about it, you know?
I guess one thing before I let you go, what do you hope that people get from reading your book? What would you like them to take from you being so open and honest about your life?
I think that they don't realize some pro or elite athletes have a rough beginning, but then you can still be successful later on, and I think they tend to forget that.
Simone Biles, wise words. Thank you so much. Congratulations on your book. Happy holidays. We appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. That's going to do it for this Thursday episode of SI Now. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. But until then, stick with SI.com for all your latest news. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter, will you? We're at SI Now Live. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow.